Welcome to this episode of the Harpreet Singh Show. I'm your host Harpreet Singh from Surrey, British Columbia, Canada. In today's program, as we all know that everybody is waiting for October the 15th because on that particular day, you will be going out and casting your votes for the City Hall. And in Surrey, there are a lot of slates which have come forward, and amongst those is Surrey First. Gordie Hogg is the mayoral candidate. So let's talk to him today and learn about his vision for Surrey, what he plans for Surrey. Gordie Hogg, good evening. Welcome to the program.
Thank you, Harpreet. Delight to be with you.
Thank you very much. How are you?
Doing just fine. It's as you're probably quite aware, it's a lot of time and energy in running a campaign and being part of a campaign, and lots of phone calls and emails and events to attend. So it can be taxing, but it's pretty exciting to be in a democracy
Right.
and getting that engagement with people.
Wonderful. Gordie, you have a vast experience in public life. You have been a councillor, you have been an MLA and a member of parliament also. So now at this age, what brought you into Surrey? How did you think that Surrey needs you and you'll be able to provide a good vision and a good future for Surrey?
Well, I think the thing that enticed me so much was firstly a number of people approaching me about it, but really the fact that I really believe that Surrey is the future of Canada. We speak over 100 languages. The face of Surrey is the face of the future of Canada. Our Charter of Rights and Freedoms talks about engagement, talks about meaning, talks about how we can grow together, and to celebrate the sameness that exists through all parts of the world. And everybody, no matter where you go in the world, most people care about the same things. They care about family and community and getting ahead, whether it's economically or socially or culturally. And we need to celebrate that in a meaningful way. And I've been kind of disappointed about the conflict that seems to exist, and talking about differences when we have so much potential in Surrey to grow. And we've got more land than Vancouver, Richmond, and Burnaby combined. We are the future of Canada. We've got the best temperature, and we need to make sure that we focus on that and focus on our excellence in terms of that.
Well, no doubt our tagline is the future lives here, but what we are seeing around is a lot of things which need to be talked about. So definitely today in this talk, what we are having, we would like to learn your vision for Surrey. But before that, if you could introduce your team also, I'd love to know who all are in your slate.
Well, firstly, there's Linda Annis, who is currently a sitting member of Surrey First, and then was elected council last go round. So she's a person that's had 4 years of experience and has been presenting important issues forward. And I think she's done a wonderful job of doing that. Secondly, there's Bilal Shima, and Bilal is an active person in our community who has been for years contributing in many ways. He has been a consultant across Canada. He's worked in many campaigns, and he really understands Surrey well, having been raised here and been a part of it and been engaged in so many things. Paul Rossetti he's a resident of Fraser Heights. He's a business graduate, and he is the Cloverdale Business Improvement Association and founding director of Tourism Surrey and the Heritage Society. So he has lots of contacts, lots of experience in terms of how do we look at, how do we manage, how do we focus on business and the important parts of that. So I'm really pleased that he's part of our team. We also have Mary M. Waddington, and Mary M. lives in the Clayton area with her 2 children, and she's the executive director of the BC Technology for Learning Society, which collects used computers and is able to refurbish them and move those to families who have those kinds of needs. So she's involved in that and in recycling, and has a wonderful background. We also have Mike Bose, and Mike lives in Cloverdale. He's a 4th generation Surrey farmer and president of the Surrey Farmers Institute. He's a former director of the Hospital Foundation, a member of Surrey Cares, extensive business background, and a wonderful person who's been so passionate. He has sat on a number of committees in Surrey looking at agriculture, the development of that, and we're so pleased. This is just such a neat group of people. Also, Ajit Vihad, and Ajit graduated from Lord Tweedsmuir in Cloverdale. He became a federal civil servant, and he worked with the Canadian Department of Justice, and he did things with human resources, skills development, Canadian Human Rights Commission, and obviously has wonderful experience. He's retired, living in Surrey, and is an active, passionate person with respect to to the things that are happening here and wanting to contribute to them. And we have Gowinder Sani, and Gowinder lives in the city centre. He's a graduate of the University of Victoria. He's spent 25 years in the governments of Canada, Ontario, Alberta, Nunavut. He's a policy analyst, and he's involved particularly in healthcare, health promotion, and education. And he's part of the Sani group of companies and the family business he's come back and working with. So he's also a wonderful addition. And finally, we have Sarji Chima. And Sarji's a proud hockey mom, and she's lived in Surrey for over 40 years and lived in Guildford and Cloverdale. And currently, she and her husband live in Whalley. She's the vice president of the Canadian Employment and Immigration Union and a former member of the Surrey Parks and Recreation Committee. She knows our neighborhoods well, and I think the face of our team, of the Surrey First team, is really the face of Surrey and the face of where we're going.
Right. Thanks for introducing your team. So now the question that arises is that the past 4 years, what we are seeing in Surrey, and a lot of allegations are coming forward that the Surrey City Hall is being controlled by the land mafia. There's a lot of corruption going on. This is some of the slates are bringing this forward. What is your view on this?
Well, firstly, I think that in a good democracy, we need to have as much transparency as possible. We want to make sure that City Hall is people who are elected to council recognize that they report to the citizens, not the other way around. And we need to ensure that we open up the opportunity for our advisory committees, which have now virtually disappeared. And in many cases, the people don't have access to City Hall. So we want to firstly expand that. I've certainly heard the kind of stories you're talking about, concerns with respect to whether or not there's collusion or special types of treatment for people. And I've heard that particularly from people in the development industry who told that they've made applications and it's gone on and on and on. So there's a number of things I'd like to see done with respect to that. So firstly is the transparency, which is so necessary in a democracy. So if a person makes an application for a development permit, that should be made public. There should be a statement with respect to how quickly that should be completed, and that should be online. And if you're number 5 in line and somebody passes you, there's better be a reason that is publicly available to people to understand that. I also talked to a number of people. I talked to a fellow who had just zoned. He had a small lot, or a lot that he wanted to divide into 2 lots, and it took months and months and months for that to happen. And I think that he told me that he went and talked to planning, and then he had to go to engineering and moving on. Well, I think we should look at a process by which there's almost somebody who assists with that. You're assigned somebody who could lead you through the challenges that can sometimes come from a bureaucracy, or challenges that can become overwhelming. So I've listed about 8 things that I think could speed up that process, make it more transparent. Another one is with big development, that a proposal, you have to get your engineer to look at it, to evaluate it. And these engineers that they hire to do that are certified, they're insured, and then we send them to City Hall to do it again and have that whole process. And there's no reason why we can't accept the engineer who is certified outside of that, so it doesn't make the process grow longer and longer. I don't want to go too long here, Harpreet, but one other thing that intrigues me is the City of Victoria is trying a pilot project right now where if you apply for something and it meets all of the zoning and all the regulations, you don't have to go to City Hall. It gets approved because it falls within the framework of what the council has dictated as the process. And I think if we can speed up that process, I think that's also a very healthy process.
Wonderful.
Do you want me to go on long about? Have I talked enough about that for you?
Absolutely.
I'm happy to go on further if you want.
Right, absolutely. No, thank you for being brief and succinct. It's time for a break. We'll go for a short break. We'll be shortly back and we'll continue with the discussion. And we would like to learn more about your vision. What are you bringing forward? What other things apart from transparency, as you talked about, when you're going and meeting the people, what other complaints are you hearing? And also, what is the slate bringing forward? We'll talk all about this after the short break.
हर रंग है साडे को, हर मॉडल, हर एक दी अपनी वक्री पहचान। असीं एक परिवार हां, साडा कर्म है अगे वधाउणा, सफर नूं सौखा बनाउणा। बसंत मोटर्स, तुहाडे नाल, तुहाडे करके।
है जुल्म ढाने का अंदाज भी कितना हंसी, हमारी जान पर बनाई है जब जब उसने अंगड़ाई ली। कभी खामोश रहते हैं, कभी शोर होता है, मोहब्बत में शरारत का मजा कुछ और होता है। दिल को जज्बात का तोहफा, खामोशियों को बात का तोहफा, खूबसूरती में जड़ी नजाकत अदाओं की चांद से मुखड़े को चांद सा तोहफा।
भारत ज्वेलर्स, सच्चे प्यार की चमक जैसा। फाइल बिजनेस सेंटर सरी।
ਕੀ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਸਰੀ, ਡੈਲਟਾ, ਰਿਚਮੰਡ, ਐਬਸਫੋਰਡ ਜਾਂ ਵੈਂਕੂਵਰ ਵਿੱਚ ਨਵਾਂ ਘਰ ਬਣਾਉਣ ਬਾਰੇ ਸੋਚ ਰਹੇ ਹੋ ਜਾਂ ਫਿਰ ਪੁਰਾਣੇ ਘਰ ਨੂੰ ਰੈਨੋਵੇਟ ਕਰਨਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੇ ਹੋ? ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਲੋੜ ਹੈ ਇੱਕ ਤਜਰਬੇਕਾਰ ਬਿਲਡਰ, ਇੱਕ ਕ੍ਰੀਏਟਿਵ ਇੰਟੀਰੀਅਰ ਡਿਜ਼ਾਈਨਰ ਦੀ ਜੋ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਸਹੀ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਗਾਈਡ ਕਰ ਸਕਣ ਤੇ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਸੁਪਨੇ ਦੇ ਘਰ ਨੂੰ ਉਸਾਰ ਸਕਣ। ਅੱਜ ਹੀ ਕਾਲ ਕਰੋ ਹਰਪ੍ਰੀਤ ਜਾਂ ਸੰਦੀਪ 6048259295 ਉੱਤੇ।
Heavens forbid. Losing a loved one can be heartbreaking and devastating. Funeral costs in British Columbia are high. Did you know you don't have to buy a casket from a funeral home? You have a choice. Yes, it's the law. Buy a funeral casket for your loved one direct from Rest in Peace. ripcaskets.com and save hundreds of dollars. They will deliver it free to a funeral home of your choice in Vancouver, Lower Mainland. For more details, visit their online store at ripcaskets.com. Rest in peace.
Once again, welcome back to the program. ਅੱਜ ਦੇ ਇਸ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਵਿੱਚ ਅਸੀਂ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਹਾਂ ਗੌਡੀ ਹੌਗ ਨਾਲ, ਜਿਹੜੇ ਕਿ ਸਰੀ ਫਰਸਟ ਦੇ ਮੇਅਰਲ ਕੈਂਡੀਡੇਟ ਹੈਗੇ ਨੇ ਤੇ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਆਪਣੀ ਟੀਮ ਨੂੰ ਇੰਟਰੋਡਿਊਸ ਕੀਤਾ ਤੇ ਉਸ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਨਾਲ ਦੱਸਿਆ ਕਿ ਸਰੀ ਹਾਲ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਟਰਾਂਸਪੇਰੈਂਸੀ ਦੀ ਲੋੜ ਹੈ, ਜਿਹੜੀ ਕਮੇਟੀਜ਼ ਖਤਮ ਕਰ ਦਿੱਤੀਆਂ ਗਈਆਂ ਨੇ। ਲੋਕਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਕਿਊ ਜੰਪ ਕਰਨ ਦੀ ਲੋੜ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈਗੀ ਅਤੇ ਜੋ ਡਿਵੈਲਪਮੈਂਟ ਪ੍ਰੋਸੈਸ ਹੈਗਾ ਉਹ ਬਿਲਕੁਲ ਟਰਾਂਸਪੇਰੈਂਟ ਹੋਣਾ ਚਾਹੀਦਾ ਹੈ। ਇਸ ਤੋਂ ਇਲਾਵਾ ਹੋਰ ਕਿਹੜੇ ਮੁੱਦੇ ਨੇ, ਆਓ ਇਸ ਬਾਰੇ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਕਰਕੇ ਜਾਣਕਾਰੀ ਲੈਣੇ। ਲੇਕਿਨ ਉਸ ਤੋਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਦੱਸ ਦਈਏ ਕਿ ਅੱਜ ਦਾ ਇਹ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਤੱਕ ਪਹੁੰਚਾਇਆ ਜਾ ਰਿਹਾ ਹੈ AMC ਇੰਸ਼ੋਰੈਂਸ ਦੇ ਸਹਿਯੋਗ ਨਾਲ। ਜੇਕਰ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਹੋਮ, ਆਟੋ, ਟਰੈਵਲ, ਬਿਜ਼ਨਸ, ਲਾਈਫ ਜਾਂ ਰਿਕ੍ਰੀਏਸ਼ਨਲ ਇੰਸ਼ੋਰੈਂਸ ਲੈਣੀ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੇ ਹੋ ਤਾਂ ਤੁਹਾਡੀ ਮਦਦ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਨੇ AMC ਇੰਸ਼ੋਰੈਂਸ। ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦੀਆਂ 9 ਬ੍ਰਾਂਚਿਸ ਨੇ ਲੋਅਰ ਮੇਨਲੈਂਡ ਵਿੱਚ, ਜੋ ਕਿ ਹਫ਼ਤੇ ਦੇ 7 ਦਿਨ ਖੁੱਲ੍ਹੀਆਂ ਰਹਿੰਦੀਆਂ ਨੇ ਤੇ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਸਰਵ ਕਰਦੀਆਂ ਨੇ। ਹੋਰ ਜਾਣਕਾਰੀ ਲਈ ਕਾਲ ਕਰੋ 604 507 6666 604 507 6666। So let's get over with a conversation with Gordie Hogg and learn more about what he is hearing from the people and what he plans to do. So transparency is one major factor, Gordie, what you have talked about. Now, because every day you are campaigning, meeting people, what other issues or challenges people are facing which they are bringing forward?
Well, certainly you mentioned transparency, but one of the things that some other jurisdictions are doing, or they're actually expanding the hours of City Hall. So City Hall is the owned by the citizens of Surrey, and we want to make it more available, open more hours, perhaps open into the evenings, and want to hold meetings around the city. So that was an important one. The second thing, which perhaps has been the topic which has most divided Surrey, is the whole issue of policing and the whole issue of public safety.
Right.
And certainly there's lots of discussion, and the decision which the current council made, or the mayor and his council made, to move forward to the Surrey Police Service. And there's lots of information that's been going around, and a lot of citizens are saying that they don't understand. They haven't had a chance to express their point of view, and that's probably something, in my opinion, that should have happened 4 years ago when that proposal was coming forward. So I believe we need to get all of the facts. There are so many rumors, and I think we should probably have an audit done so that we have the facts, and then we can convey those facts to the citizens of Surrey, so that they can have a chance to say and finally decide what police we should have in the city. And clearly at this point, Doug McCallum and Brenda Locke have don't seem to want to give a chance to have their say. One of them says, we're going to go ahead regardless of the cost, and the other one says we're going to bring it to a screeching halt regardless of the cost. And the issue is so big that so important that I think the people of Surrey deserve the right to have a say in that process. It is monumental in terms of the direction and focus we're going in, and clearly public safety is an important issue to the core of our city and the challenges that it faces. So that's a very big one. And
right. So on this particular issue, Gordie, on this particular issue of what color of the uniform the security agencies will wear over here in Surrey, what do you plan if elected? Will you go in for a kind of a local referendum, or you will get the people involved? What will happen?
Well, first of all, we want to do a forensic audit, because there are so many rumors that I'm hearing from, even from staff at City Hall and from people that I talk to in the community. We really need to know what the facts are, and that's just not there at this point. And that could lead. We want the public to have a say in this. So a referendum would be an appropriate way of being able to do that, to have that say. This is a big, important decision in terms of where we're going and the costs associated with it. And so we need to make that transparent, and we need that audit to give us the information upon which to make an informed decision.
Another issue concerned with development, which I just skipped, was there is also a lot of allegations of illegal construction going on in Surrey. As people have to wait for so long, many of them just go in for constructing on their own. And the other issue is of basements. And as every month in Surrey, there it is said about 1,500 people are coming. To accommodate that, we need accommodation. So what is your view on how to accommodate the people over here?
Well, as you point out, that we're growing at about 300 families every month, and that's more than 10,000 people, excuse me, every year. And the fact that the most effective way of dealing with housing is to increase the supply, and making sure that we do that more quickly. So certainly when people apply for housing and for changes in housing, that process has to happen much more efficiently and quickly, so that we can respond to the needs, because delays mean cost money, and that simply is passed on to the buyer in the end, or the renter. And the costs are so high now that it means we've got to move much more quickly, and about somewhere in the range of 20% of the costs that are accumulated are as a result of costs put on by the city. So the city needs to look at being more efficient and more effective in terms of addressing that. So one of the things that we talked about a little earlier was the whole issue of the engineer. And that, if we have you've done that, and you've done the engineer, and that means we can speed up that process. But we also want to have that all made public and transparent. So if you apply to build a house, that you know where you are on the line, and you'll say you're number 5 on the list. If somebody passes you, we better know why. And those are the types of things we need to be looking at. We need to have an ombudsperson that reports to council, that is able to monitor these things, and again, make them transparent, and make sure we're responding quickly to the needs. And housing is certainly a big need in the Lower Mainland, and we know the costs of housing are exorbitant, and so many people can't afford that. So we also have to look at options in terms of that. How do there's talk of more laneways, more development, and about 30% of the people who live in Surrey and are employed are going outside Surrey to work, and they'd like to be able to work within our city. So we also have to look at not just approving a number of residences, but ensuring that we have businesses that are situating here. Our percentage of businesses compared to Langley and to population and to Vancouver is lower. So we need to focus on that, so people can live, work, and learn and play in the same area.
Okay. And, I would like to also talk a little bit about infrastructure development. What are your plans? What is your vision for Surrey? How do you plan to get business into Surrey? Business will only come if infrastructure is provided. Do you think that enough infrastructure is there to accommodate all that, or you plan something else?
Well, certainly one of the big issues these days is transportation and the challenges associated with that. And I was a member of Parliament when we were looking at and giving funding to the city of Surrey. And at that point, the city of Surrey was saying that they wanted to put SkyTrain down into Newton, and so we have better north-south transportation. And they made a decision that they wanted to go to Langley, and we believed in Ottawa that the people of Surrey should make the decision, should have the right to do that. So now we certainly still have, as I drive around, and I'm sure as most people drive around, they know how much traffic we have and how congested it is, and it's just getting more and more congested all the time. So we really have to respond to that. I represented Surrey on the Vancouver Regional Transit Commission, and so I've got some sense of how the transit model works, and we have to have better coordination with the provincial and the federal government, because this is something that they need to participate in. So our priority around that whole transportation issue would be that north-south transit, and and connections to Newton, which was again that original challenge that we had. And so I've had a few conversations with members of the BC Transit, and they're saying that there are some options that could be developed. There are what looks like a sky train, the same type of material. They actually can have some of those that have wheels and can have a designated lane and can move quickly, coordinated with lights. And it costs about somewhere 60% less in that range than the sky train, but it could come more quickly and respond. So we need to. That is a number one priority in terms of infrastructure. Is we've got to make sure people are mobile and be able to get out of in and around the city, and instead of having the blockages that we seem to have now.
Okay, wonderful. It's again time for a short break. We'll go for a break, and then in the last segment, we'll learn more from you about your vision, how you're going to lead Surrey. So we'll be shortly back after this break.
ਘਰ ਇੱਕ ਐਸੀ ਥਾਂ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਹੈ ਜਿੱਥੇ ਹਰ ਕੋਈ ਆਪਣੀ ਨਿੱਜੀ ਜ਼ਿੰਦਗੀ ਦੇ ਸੁਨਹਿਰੀ ਪਲ ਯਾਦ ਰੱਖਦਾ ਹੈ। ਉਹ ਜਗ੍ਹਾ ਜਿੱਥੇ ਉਹ ਰਹਿੰਦਾ ਹੈ ਤੇ ਪਿਆਰ ਭਰਿਆ ਜੀਵਨ ਬਤੀਤ ਕਰਦਾ ਹੈ। ਇਹ ਗੱਲਾਂ ਤਾਂ ਹੀ ਪੂਰੀਆਂ ਹੁੰਦੀਆਂ ਨੇ ਜਦ ਕਿਸੇ ਜਗ੍ਹਾ ਨੂੰ ਸਜੇ ਹੋਏ ਘਰ 'ਚ ਬਦਲਿਆ ਜਾਵੇ। ਨਵੇਂ ਘਰਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਫਰੇਮਿੰਗ ਤੋਂ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਫਿਨਿਸ਼ਿੰਗ ਤੱਕ, ਡ੍ਰੇਪਰੀ, ਪੇਂਟਿੰਗਸ ਤੋਂ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਡੈਕੋਰੇਸ਼ਨ ਐਸੈਸਰੀਜ਼ ਤੱਕ ਤੁਸੀਂ SK ਹੋਮ ਡਿਜ਼ਾਈਨਸ ਦੀਆਂ ਪ੍ਰੋਫੈਸ਼ਨਲ ਸਰਵਿਸਿਜ਼ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਆਪਣੇ ਸੁਪਨਿਆਂ ਦੇ ਘਰ ਨੂੰ ਹਕੀਕਤ 'ਚ ਬਦਲ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੋ। ਕੰਟੈਕਟ ਕਰੋ ਸੰਦੀਪ ਕੌਰ 6048259295।
ਜੇ ਕਿਸੇ ਬਿਜ਼ਨਸਮੈਨ ਨੂੰ ਕੋਈ ਪਿਆਰ ਕਰਦਾ ਹੈ ਤਾਂ ਕੀ ਵਜ੍ਹਾ ਹੋ ਸਕਦੀ ਹੈ? ਸੁਖੀ ਬਾਟ ਮੋਟਰਸ ਦੇ ਓਨਰ ਸੁਖੀ ਬਾਟ ਨੂੰ ਵੇਖ ਕੇ ਇਹ ਗੱਲ ਸਮਝ ਆ ਜਾਂਦੀ ਹੈ। ਇੰਟੈਲੀਜੈਂਸ ਦਾ ਉਦਾਹਰਨ ਇਹ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਕਾਰ ਸੈਗਮੈਂਟ ਤੋਂ ਵੱਖ ਸੁਖੀ ਬਾਟ ਮੋਟਰਸ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਆਏ ਨੇ ਸਰੀ ਦਾ ਪਹਿਲਾ ਟਰੱਕ ਸੈਂਟਰ, ਜਿੱਥੇ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਲੋੜ ਦੇ ਹਿਸਾਬ ਨਾਲ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਲੋੜੀਂਦੇ ਟਰੱਕਸ ਬਾਰੇ ਗਾਈਡੈਂਸ ਦਿੱਤੀ ਜਾਂਦੀ ਹੈ। ਸਪੇਸ, ਮੋਡੀਫਿਕੇਸ਼ਨ ਤੇ ਫਿਊਲ ਐਫੀਸ਼ੀਐਂਸੀ ਸਭ ਨੂੰ ਧਿਆਨ ਵਿੱਚ ਰੱਖਿਆ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਹੈ। ਸੁਖੀ ਬਾਟ ਟਰੱਕ ਸੈਂਟਰ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਟਰੱਕਾਂ ਨਾਲ ਹੀ ਹੈ ਟੌਰ।
ਵੈਨਕਾਸਾ ਟਾਈਲ ਅਤੇ ਸਟੋਨ ਸ਼ੋਰੂਮ ਇੱਕ ਐਸੀ ਥਾਂ ਹੈ ਜਿੱਥੇ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਹੋਲਸੇਲ ਕੀਮਤਾਂ ਤੇ ਹਰ ਕਿਸਮ ਦੀਆਂ ਟਾਈਲਸ, ਸਟੋਨ, ਮਾਰਬਲ, ਬੈਕਸਪਲੈਸ਼, ਮੋਜ਼ੇਕ ਆਦਿ ਵਾਜਬ ਕੀਮਤਾਂ ਤੇ ਮਿਲ ਸਕਦਾ ਹੈ। ਇਟਾਲੀਅਨ, ਸਪੈਨਿਸ਼, ਚਾਈਨੀਜ਼ ਪੋਰਸਲਨ ਜਾਂ ਸਿਰੈਮਿਕ ਟਾਈਲਸ ਜਾਂ ਮਾਰਬਲ ਸਪੈਸ਼ਲ ਆਰਡਰ ਤੇ ਜਾਂ ਕਲੀਅਰੈਂਸ ਤੇ ਲੈ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੋ। ਮਾਲਕ ਡਾਇਰੈਕਟ ਟਾਈਲਸ ਇੰਪੋਰਟ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਨ, ਜਿਸ ਕਰਕੇ ਵਧੀਆ ਕੁਆਲਿਟੀ ਦਾ ਸਮਾਨ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਘਰ ਦਾ ਸ਼ਿੰਗਾਰ ਬਣਾ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੋ। ਅੱਜ ਹੀ ਵਿਜ਼ਿਟ ਕਰੋ 13042884 ਐਵਨਿਊ ਸਰੀ। ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਹਿੰਦੀ ਵਿੱਚ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਨ ਲਈ ਕਾਲ ਕਰੋ 604 330 7363 604 330 7363। ਸਵਾਗਤ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਜੀ ਇੱਕ ਵਾਰ ਫਿਰ ਆਪ ਸਭ ਦਾ ਅੱਜ ਦੇ ਇਸ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਵਿੱਚ। ਗੌਡੀ ਹੌਗ ਸਾਡੇ ਮਹਿਮਾਨ ਨੇ ਤੇ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਚੱਲ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਕੀ ਹੈ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਵਿਜ਼ਨ। ਕੈਂਪੇਨਿੰਗ ਚੱਲ ਰਹੀ ਹੈ, ਕੈਂਪੇਨਿੰਗ ਇਜ਼ ਇਨ ਫੁੱਲ ਸਵਿੰਗ, ਹੀ ਇਜ਼ ਗੋਇੰਗ ਅਰਾਊਂਡ ਮੀਟਿੰਗ ਪੀਪਲ ਐਂਡ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਗੱਲਾਂ ਉਹ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ ਉਸ ਦੇ ਸੰਬੰਧ ਵਿੱਚ ਦੱਸ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ ਕਿ ਇੱਥੇ ਇਨਫਰਾਸਟਰਕਚਰ ਡਿਵੈਲਪਮੈਂਟ ਦੀ ਜਦੋਂ ਗੱਲ ਹੁੰਦੀ ਹੈ ਤਾਂ ਟ੍ਰਾਂਜ਼ਿਟ ਇੱਕ ਮੇਜਰ ਚੀਜ਼ ਹੈ ਜਿਸ ਤੇ ਫੋਕਸ ਕੀਤਾ ਜਾਏਗਾ। ਉਸ ਤੋਂ ਇਲਾਵਾ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਕੀਤੀ ਕਿ ਜਿਸ ਤਰੀਕੇ ਨਾਲ ਇੱਥੇ ਇਲੀਗਲ ਕੰਸਟਰਕਸ਼ਨਸ ਦਾ ਮੈਂ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਸਵਾਲ ਪੁੱਛਿਆ ਜਾਂ ਇੱਥੇ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਆਬਾਦੀ ਵਧ ਰਹੀ ਉਸ ਨੂੰ ਕਿਵੇਂ ਅਕੋਮੋਡੇਟ ਕੀਤਾ ਜਾਏ। ਤੇ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਕਿਹਾ ਕਿ ਐਜ਼ ਅ MP ਆਲਸੋ ਫੈਡਰਲ ਸਰਕਾਰ ਨੇ ਪੈਸੇ ਦਿੱਤੇ ਤਾਂ ਕਿ ਇੱਥੇ ਅਫੋਰਡੇਬਲ ਹਾਊਸਿੰਗ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਹੈ ਉਸ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਲੋਕ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਨੇ ਜੁੜ ਸਕਣ। ਅੱਗੇ ਕੀ ਪਲਾਨਸ ਨੇ ਇਸ ਦੇ ਬਾਰੇ ਜਾਣਕਾਰੀ ਲੈਣੀ ਹੈ, ਲੇਕਿਨ ਉਸ ਤੋਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਦੱਸ ਦਈਏ ਕਿ ਅੱਜ ਦਾ ਇਹ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਤੱਕ ਪਹੁੰਚਾਇਆ ਜਾ ਰਿਹਾ ਹੈ ਅਗਨੀਹੋਤਰੀ ਇਮੀਗ੍ਰੇਸ਼ਨ ਵੱਲੋਂ। ਟੈਂਪਰੇਰੀ ਸਟੇਟਸ PR ਨਵੇਂ ਹੋ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਵਿੱਚ, ਅੰਤਰਰਾਸ਼ਟਰੀ ਵਿਦਿਆਰਥੀ ਹੋ, ਸਪਾਂਸਰ ਕਰਨ ਨੇ ਪੇਰੈਂਟਸ ਜਾਂ ਗ੍ਰੈਂਡ ਪੇਰੈਂਟਸ ਤੋਂ ਤੁਹਾਡੀ ਮਦਦ ਕਰ ਸਕਦੇ ਨੇ। ਨੀਰਾ ਅਗਨੀਹੋਤਰੀ 2006 ਤੋਂ ਸਰਟੀਫਾਈਡ ਇਮੀਗ੍ਰੇਸ਼ਨ ਕੰਸਲਟੈਂਟ ਵਜੋਂ ਕੰਮ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ, ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਓਨੈਸਟ ਰਿਲਾਇਬਲ ਇਨਫੋਰਮੇਸ਼ਨ ਦੇਣ ਦਾ ਵਾਅਦਾ ਕਰਦੇ ਨੇ। ਹੋਰ ਜਾਣਕਾਰੀ ਲਈ ਕਾਲ ਕਰੋ 604 5972284 604 597 2284। So let's get over once again in the last segment to Gordie and learn more as to what his vision for Surrey is. Gordie, I've been seeing your ads, and in that you're focusing on the youth. You are saying our focus will be on the youth. What do you plan to do for the youth?
Well, certainly when our current mayor announced that he wanted to build a 60,000 seat stadium and we looked at the cost of that and what that would mean, it seems much more important and valuable to the people of our community that we have pools, rinks, gyms, community centers available in our communities and access to those. So we would, should we form government, we would give all youth, anybody under the age of 18, free access to pools, rinks, gyms, community centers, and also to seniors. And that only represents about a $2 million investment in our children and in our seniors. And I think it's worth every penny to keep kids, giving them opportunities, hopefully to stay out of gangs and engaging our seniors in their community and neighborhoods. So I think that's a really positive and important thing that we look at and that I continue to hear. Certainly community amenities are important. I think we need a 10-year plan that focuses on and building neighborhood facilities such as the pools, rinks, tracks, fields, and community centers. And we need a plan that we will stay and stick to in building. Another thing in terms of the whole safety and infrastructure is the notion of our needing to hire more police officers. So we've made a commitment that we will move forward and hire more police officers as well as firefighters. Those are two of the core safety issues that we need, and we're far behind in terms of that. I don't think we've hired a police officer in the last 4 years, and we've got about 843 police officers. In Vancouver has close to 1,600. And the same thing when we look at firefighters, that we've got one firefighter Vancouver has one firefighter for, I think, about 850 residents, while we have one for about every 1,600. Yet our fire department does a phenomenal job. So we have to keep growing and making a commitment to grow our firefighters and our police officers consistent with our population growth, and that's got to stay consistent. So those are things I continue to hear as I talk to people in the community about the core elements that we need to build and to aspire to our change on the future, which, again, as I said, I believe that the face of Surrey is soon to be the face of Canada and reflect the future in so many positive ways, that we've got such enormous potential here in this community.
Another issue, as you have talked about the community safety, another issue which parents talk about is the safety of the children in the schools. There used to be a time when there used to be a police presence in the schools, but not anymore. Drugs are easily available. This is what the parents claim. So this is an issue which people want some action needs to be taken. Are you concerned about it, and will you take some action to get the police at least, patrolling or be in the school premises so that they act as a deterrent for those who just want to be going around there and selling drugs?
Yeah, I used to attend a lot of schools. I used to be a probation officer. That was my first job in Surrey. I was a probation officer, and I worked in the Wally area. And certainly knowing that you had police connected with that, I used to ride with the RCMP one weekend a month, and we went to the domestic violence and the gang activities. And having that presence is so important, as you reference what's happening within the context of our schools. About 30% of all of the crime that occurs is as a result of drug and alcohol abuse and mental health. And we need to focus on that. In some of the areas of the world, Portugal being perhaps the best example, have really focused on that. And it's not just a police presence, but the presence of people who look at and manage within the context of the schools. So public safety starts within the school context and being able to ensure that there is access to that. We know that 9 and 10-year-olds are approached by gang members and asked to distribute drugs. We've seen that over and over again. I'm an adjunct professor in criminology at Simon Fraser. I sit on something called the Terrorism, Violence, and Security Institute. So this is something we look at, and we recognize that the gang activity in Surrey is different than every other part of the world except Western Europe. The majority of our gang members come from very wealthy families, whereas the United States, they tend to come from poorer families, as they do in Australia and London, England, and Israel. So we've got to build and focus on that, and having that type of awareness, as you point out, people in the school, whether they're social workers or they're police officers that have that other connection to focus on those needs, is so important.
And Gordie, what other plans are you bringing forward in your platform?
Well, there are sort of three primary large issues which we've touched on, and the first one is ensuring that we deal with public safety, and we've talked about police and fire around that. The second one is, again, making our city more responsive to the needs of people, having advisory committees come back, meeting around it, changing the hours of City Hall, because the elected representatives report to the citizens, and the citizens have to feel welcome at City Hall, welcome to meet with people and be listened to and carried on. And the third thing is the vision for the future. It's the vision of what Surrey can accomplish. Surrey, this is my belief, it's going to be known as Metro Surrey in the future, because we're growing faster. We're soon going to be the largest city. We are the face of Canada, and we've got to be able to realize that and aspire to that. We also have to make sure that that's not just happening on a large citywide presence. We need to make sure that opportunities are available for all of the people living in Surrey. We want to find places for them to live, work, play, and grow within the context of their communities. And we've got to make sure those communities are safe, that people feel safe within that framework. So that's a broad picture in terms of the vision that we have. And there's lots of work to be done, and that work has to be done in concert with the citizens. It's not something that a city council should be sitting out there somehow knowing best, because they don't. If we're making decisions regarding the citizens and their safety, we'd better be talking to them about their issues, as all policy and legislation should be informed by the people that it's going to impact. And we haven't done a good job of that in Surrey in the last while.
Gordie, a lot of promises are made during the municipal, provincial or federal elections, and people say that then after that, politicians are not to be seen. How do you assure the public that the promises that you're making now will be fulfilled once you are elected?
Well, firstly, we'll put together a 10-year plan that talks about the issues and be held accountable. One of the things that in a democracy, and I was at a meeting, candidates meeting about a week ago, and a fellow said to me, why don't you just take all of the policies and post them on a website? Why don't all of the teams that are running, all of the parties that are running, do that? And I said, well, because in order to be that somebody who wanted to do that and thought they could be elected by putting what they thought people wanted to see or hear, they could post that. I think there's an important relationship between the people that are saying it and what they're saying. And if people are saying, I want to do all of these things, I think you should look at the people that are saying that and see whether they have actually done something about those things in their lives. Too often we see people come along and say, I want to get involved in politics, and this is what I'm going to do. Well, that's great if you have shown your interest in that and how you've done that in the past, how your life has represented that. As an example, I don't know whether I'm the best example, but I'm on the board of Food Banks British Columbia. I'm on the board of Seniors Come Share Society. I work with a national organization called Disability Without Poverty. I've been a probation officer. I'm an adjunct professor. So I have had experience in all of those areas, and therefore the policy that I'm doing is not just something I'm pulling out of a book somewhere. It's something about the lived experience that I've done and worked in this community for 30 years and been engaged and volunteered. And so I care passionately about this. And I think that your question is a great question. How are people going to be held accountable? I expect to be held accountable because I've been doing these things in the past, that we'll make it a 10-year plan and we'll build on that. And we owe that to the people of Surrey.
Wonderful. If people want to learn more about your platforms, what's your website where they can go and learn more?
Oh, yes. Give me that tough question about our website. It's Surrey. I'll sing you a song while I pull out the, it is www.surreyfirst.org.
Okay. Wonderful.
So thank you. Thank you very much, Harpreet.
Thank you very much for sparing your time and letting the people know about your vision. And we offer you the best wishes. And, hopefully on October the 15th, a large number of people come out and vote, because it's their right to franchise and they should exercise that. Thank you very much and best wishes.
Thank you so much.
Welcome. Bye-bye. ਸੋ ਇਹ ਸਨ ਗੋਡੀ ਹੌਗ, ਤੇ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਕਿਹਾ ਕਿ ਅਸੀਂ 10 ਸਾਲ ਦਾ ਇੱਕ ਪਲਾਨ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਆਵਾਂਗੇ ਜਿਸ ਵਿੱਚ ਕਿ ਟਰਾਂਸਪੇਰੈਂਸੀ ਅਤੇ ਅਕਾਊਂਟੇਬਿਲਿਟੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਹੈ ਉਹ ਹੋਏਗੀ। ਜਦੋਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਮੈਂ ਪੁੱਛਿਆ ਕਿ ਸਿਆਸਤਦਾਨ ਵਾਅਦੇ ਤਾਂ ਬਹੁਤ ਕਰਦੇ ਨੇ ਪਰ ਬਾਅਦ 'ਚ ਇਲੈਕਸ਼ਨ ਤੋਂ ਬਾਅਦ ਨਜ਼ਰ ਨਹੀਂ ਆਉਂਦੇ, ਤੇ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਦੱਸਿਆ ਕਿ ਇਹ ਬਹੁਤ ਸਾਰੀਆਂ ਐਡਵਾਈਜ਼ਰੀ ਕਮੇਟੀਜ਼ ਦੇ ਮੈਂਬਰ ਹੈਗੇ ਨੇ, ਫੂਡ ਬੈਂਕ ਤੋਂ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਇਹ ਕ੍ਰਿਮਨੋਲੋਜੀ ਦੇ ਪ੍ਰੋਫੈਸਰ ਵੀ ਹੈਗੇ ਨੇ ਸਾਈਮਨ ਫਰੇਜ਼ਰ ਯੂਨੀਵਰਸਿਟੀ ਵਿੱਚ। ਸੋ ਵਾਈਡ ਐਕਸਪੀਰੀਅੰਸ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਪਤਾ ਹੈ ਕੀ ਸਮੱਸਿਆਵਾਂ ਨੇ, ਤੇ ਉਸ ਉੱਤੇ ਇਹ ਡਟ ਕੇ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਨਾਲ ਜੋੜ ਕੇ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਹੈਗਾ ਫੈਸਲੇ ਕਰਨਗੇ ਤਾਂ ਕਿ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਦੀ ਸੁਣਵਾਈ ਹੋਵੇ। ਸੋ surreyfirst.org ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਵੈਬਸਾਈਟ ਹੈਗੀ, ਜਿੱਥੇ ਜਾ ਕੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਹੋਰ ਜਾਣਕਾਰੀ ਲੈ ਸਕਦੇ ਹੋ। ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਮੇਰਾ ਸਾਥ ਹੋਇਆ ਕਰਦਾ ਮੰਡੇ ਟੂ ਫਰਾਈਡੇ ਸ਼ਾਮ ਦੇ 6 ਵਜੇ ਪੈਸੀਫਿਕ ਸਟੈਂਡਰਡ ਟਾਈਮ ਦੇ ਮੁਤਾਬਿਕ। ਇਫ ਯੂ ਆਲਸੋ ਵਾਂਟ ਟੂ ਬੀ ਅ ਪਾਰਟ ਆਫ ਦਿਸ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ, ਯੂ ਕੈਨ ਕੰਟੈਕਟ ਮੀ ਥਰੂ WhatsApp anywhere in the world through 604-603-7555, or you can email me at harpreetsingh@gmail.com. Have a safe evening, stay healthy and enjoy yourself.